Well, what is the DNA? It's an information molecule. It's a genetic code. What is a code? It's a language. It's words in a physical form, which is at the root of your own existence, out of which you emerged. I'm just trying to show you that dialogue is not foreign to you. There's a principle in dialogue that we touched on lightly last week, and I'll touch on it lightly again. It's called synergy. The law of synergy states that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Another statement of the law of synergy states that the behavior of a system or an organism cannot be predicted by the behavior of the parts that make it up. So look at your father, look at your mother, where we can't necessarily say how you're going to be. You're going to be somewhat like them, but actually the law of synergy says what you are ultimately going to be is unpredictable, but you have the potential to be greater than that which made you up. We're going to keep coming back to that law of synergy over and over again in this lecture series, because unless and until you understand synergy, you'll miss the whole point of dialogue. What it actually indicates is the way by which creation is produced. So let's just leave it there and go to the next slide. What is that? It's not pornography, is it? I bet somebody will get upset at this. Because we live in a world that makes everything natural offensive. Only artificial things are allowed. That which is natural is frowned upon. Now, let me apologize. I found this slide, and the words there, see, even that's wrong. Breast milk is the best source of nutrition for the first 6 months, the first 12 months, the first 18 months, the first 24 months. The Holy Quran says that the nursing period is 2 full years. This world disagrees with Allah. Why is breastfeeding so important, and what does that have to do with dialogue? That is dialogue. That's dialogue on the biological level. That is the first communication between mother and child. The baby is born with what is called a suck reflex. If you put your knuckle near the corner of the baby's mouth, right at birth, the baby starts. That's called the suck reflex. Because by nature, the baby is created to seek out the breast of the mother. And through that breast, not only does the baby receive physical nourishment, but also emotional support and also spiritual support. You say, well, you can get the same thing in a bottle. Not so. The mother gets a stimulation from the baby, and the stimulation of the baby causes the mother's body to react to produce more milk. We live in such an impatient world that sometimes the mother, if she don't get an immediate response of milk, She concludes that this breastfeeding thing don't work. Well, if it didn't work, then how could we as the human family have existed for trillions of years if it didn't work? No, you're just impatient. And you're communicating your impatience and frustration to the baby, and that's what makes it not work. Now, the baby don't have a problem with being patient. The baby will start pulling on the breast, sucking on the breast, and will suck and suck and suck and suck and suck. Even if it's not getting too much, it won't get tired. And if it gets tired, it will rest and then come back to the same thing until the stimulation of the baby on the breast will produce a reaction in the breast. And then the mother will let down her milk, and then it begins to flow, sufficient to meet the needs of that baby. That's not all. A brother told me tonight that the doctor told his wife that their baby had a serious infection. He wanted me to give some advice. Well, I don't like giving cheap advice, off-the-cuff advice like that. But I did have a question for him. Brother, is your wife breastfeeding? Yes, sir. I said, well, that's good. I didn't say any more. I said, that's good. Because whatever the infection is that is in the baby, that infectious germ will find its way in certain canals in the breast of the mother. And the mother's breast tissue will react to it and start producing antibodies to whatever that germ is, and start to manufacture those antibodies and then put it in the milk. So now when the baby is nursing the milk ain't the same as it was before. The milk has changed in response to the baby's need. And the milk is constantly changing as the baby's needs are changing. There's a dialogue going on a biological level. All praise is due to Allah. So, brother, keep that baby on the breast. Keep that baby in dialogue, because whatever the need is, in due course of time, if you are patient, then your need is being supplied. Next slide, please. See, the dialogue of nature. See, have you ever been troubled? Angry, upset, frustrated, mad, on your last nerve, about ready to blow your top? And all you got to do is go outside. Get into a place of natural beauty where you can see the sky. Next slide, please. A rainstorm, a shower, the wind, trees, grass, all of God's creation seems like it has the ability to communicate with you. If the wind can cry to you, if the sun can speak to you, if the moon can speak to you and soothe your troubled mind and answer some of your needs, well then, if God taught the means of expression to all of his creation, well, how much more has he placed in you? Next slide. The nature of dialogue, it literally means the flow of meaning. Meaning. Yes, dialogue can be, oh, yes, sir, thank you. Thank you. Yes, some forms of dialogue seem to be about words. We talk using words. We think using words. But it's not really about the words. See, some of you are reluctant to get in dialogue because you say, I'm not good with words. I don't have a good vocabulary. I can't pronounce the words right. My grammar's off. It's not about that. It's about the meaning that you represent. You didn't hear what I said. See, when we enter into dialogue, which is a meeting of meanings. Let me say it again. When we enter into dialogue, we are entering into a meeting of meaning. See, look at yourself. It's not the words that you bring to the dialogue that counts. It's you yourself and the meaning of your life. So when you speak a word, the word that you speak in that instant of time is the sum total of everything that has ever happened to you in your life. You bring the entire weight of your life's experience with you. And whether you got the grammatically correct language or not, your life has meaning. It has the meaning and the purpose that Allah put in it for you, whether you realize it or not, but the dialogue will help you to realize the meaning of your own life. You will begin to discover the meaning of your own life when you see the reaction of others to what you have to say. It's the flow of meaning. Dialogue, to be true, must flow. The rappers know that. If you ain't flowing, you ain't saying nothing. You're too rigid. You're too stiff. You're too inhibited. Just let it flow. Don't worry about the words. Don't worry about the rhyme. Just let it flow. Let the meaning of your life flow out from your mouth or whatever the means of expression is. Just let it go. And let it meet with the meaning of other lives. Let it meet with the flow of other lives. Let it meet with the meaning of other lives. And let those individual streams of meaning meet and collect together so that it becomes then a mighty flow, a mighty river of meaning, of purpose, of truth, of understanding, of agreement. It's like two rivers when they come together. This produces white water turbulence. Have you ever seen that? Two streams meet. They were going their individual ways, but at the confluence of two rivers, Moses met the wise man. Isn't that interesting geographical symbolism? And Moses travels with the wise man, and if you step back from the events of the story and look at it, you'll see that it fits the pattern of dialogue. Now, it was not the kind of dialogue that reached consensus, but it prepared Moses for a mission, because he was shocked at some of the things that the wise man did. And even though it was beyond his comprehension, it stimulated in him a response that showed that he was sympathetic. Why would you kill an innocent child? Why would you destroy a man's boat? Why would you hide a treasure from those who deserve to receive that treasure? It was shocking to Moses, and it stimulated a response in him that showed the deep moral character of Moses. It disqualified him from continuing to walk with that particular wise man on that man's mission, but it was absolutely what qualified Moses for his own mission. Now, dialogue is sometimes known as the Socratic method, after that original man, Socrates, who taught Plato and the other Greek philosophers. It's also known as the scientific method, that when you see the big physicists and chemists in their white lab coats and they're performing scientific experiments, it's all based on the principles of dialogue. We're not going to spend time on that tonight. Next slide. The nature of dialogue is highly spiritual, and it invites in the presence of the Holy Spirit. For wherever two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am also in the midst of them. See, that's the glory of dialogue. When you think about it, you almost have no other way of consciously, knowingly invoking the presence of God into your life and into your affair. Even when it's just you in prayer, that's a form of dialogue. Allah says, call on me and I will answer you. And then he says, and he who disdains my favor will certainly become the inhabitant of hell. In other words, God is inviting you through prayer and meditation to call on him. And even though he is the supreme being of the universe, he's not so busy that he can't respond to you. And when he responds to you, then he will build you up. He will educate you. He will uplift you. He will inspire you. He will give you whatever it is that you need and give you whatever your true desire is that helps you to fulfill your divine purpose from him. Are you following what I'm saying? But now look at the human being. You're locked in your physical form. Look at you. You got to sit in separate seats, don't you? Because two physical bodies can't occupy the same space at the same time. Have you ever been in love? Come on, talk back to me. And if you've really been in love, then you yearn for your beloved so much, you wish that you could kind of even melt into the other person's body. You want to be one with them. But try as you might, the best you can get is a close rub-up. You can't merge physically, can you? You try. Look at your old big head on your shoulders, full of your own thoughts and ideas and purposes. And those are your ideas, your thoughts. That's your mind. And you know other people have a mind too, but there's a problem. You can't know someone else's mind, and they can't know your mind. They're created separate. Some people wish they could read other people's minds. I'm not sure I want to read anybody's mind. My own mind is so confusing. If I had somebody else's mind in there too, I'd really be crazy. So physically, we're separate. Intellectually, mentally, we have a separate existence. I can share with you my thoughts through language. We have an emotional body as well. And I want you to feel sometimes what I'm feeling, and sometimes I'm looking at suffering, and I'm wondering, well, what does that person really feel like? I see the painful expression. I see the tears. But I can't actually get into the actual emotion. I know you're sad, but I'm not sad. I might be sad that you're sad. And that old lying Bill Clinton said, I feel your pain, but he was lying. He knows that's what people like to hear. They like to believe that somebody is really feeling what they're feeling. But in fact, once again, we find ourselves trapped in our own feelings, our own emotions, our own thoughts, in our own physical body. The quest for dialogue is a quest for what might be called affinity. Affinity is like love, which is an attracting force and power that draws people together, but on the level of the physical, on the level of the emotional, on the level of the mental, you can't get but so close. But through the process of affinity, on the spiritual plane, you can occupy the same space at the same time with another human being. And the pathway or the mechanism by which affinity of that ultimate nature is achieved is what we call dialogue. Are you following me? That's why the scripture is full of dialogue. That's all it is when you get right down to it. Sometimes it reads like a screenplay, a dramatic enactment. It's dialogue. It's address and response. It's communication back and forth. And it's not fun and play. It's not trivial. It's not gossip. It's not backbiting. But it's a special kind of talk that is uplifting to the human being. I already mentioned about our lessons being examples of dialogue. But now, take a look inside your own head and observe the dialogue within. When you're thinking to yourself, how many voices are in the conversation? How many characters are there? How many points of view? How many opinions? And you are weakened in your personal action, and you are limited in your success to the degree that you cannot manage the dialogue that's taking place in your own head. See, you're divided within yourself. You can't agree within yourself. See, here's what happens inside your head. See, like in this meeting right now, this is not much dialogue going on. This is monologue. And I got the microphone. So I can say anything I want to say. Well, inside your own head, it's like there's a microphone too. But it passes from person to person. And you get all these people, all of whom answer to your name. But they're different people. They're different personalities. They all answer to your name. So sister got a weight problem. She said, I think I'm going to go on a fast. And then somebody in the back said, no, you're not. Well, who was that spoke from the back? See, that was yourself, but it wasn't your true self. So just like we're learning the process of deliberative dialogue, where we convene dialogue meetings, that we have some issue or some problem or some topic that needs a solution, then we convene a meeting. We invite everybody that belongs in the meeting into the meeting, and we form up into a circle. And then we begin the process of dialogue. And if everybody is obeying the rules of dialogue, then sooner or later, with enough patience, then the process will yield a solution. Same thing in your own head. What you need to do, brother, who's so troubled, sister that's so confused, what you need to do is convene a meeting. Now, the first thing you need to decide is who is going to call the meeting. Now, some of them crazy people in your head, they ain't going to never call a meeting. They don't want to have no meeting. But there is a true self. There is a divine self. There is a God of self. And so this whole teaching of Islam, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is a stimulation to your nature, so that the God of self that may be in a deep sleep, even unto death, will be aroused from that tomb and come awake, and then survey all of the realm of self and call a meeting. And then all of the components or aspects of self are brought into that meeting that's taking place in the temple of God. See, just like we have meetings now, you got checked at the door, didn't you? So when you convene your meeting up here, you got to have guards at the door. See that the enemy don't creep in. Got to check them at the door. And let the ones in that seem to be the right ones. And then let the true self announce what the topic is and make a presentation. I have convened this meeting because I have gotten to weigh 342 pounds. And this is against my life. This is destroying my chances to see the hereafter. and my knees hurt, and my back hurts, and I get a headache every day. So I am convening this meeting over the issue of this excess weight. And then you state your case as the presenter of the problem. Then after the problem has been presented, okay, now who wants to respond to that? Yeah, but what about the cheesecake that you like? We always go out every Friday night to the Cheesecake Factory. And all your girlfriends go along with you. They're not going to be happy if you tell them you can't go to the Cheesecake Factory no more. And let every voice that is in your head speak to the topic. And some will be pro and some will be con. Let every objection be heard. And let it continue for as long as it needs to continue. But if there's a voice there that is speaking constantly against the health of the body, speaking in a negative direction, pointing towards death, well, then you have identified Satan in the midst. And you need to call that person front and center. Come down front and center. Let's take a look at you. You're the one advocating that I overeat. You're the one advocating that I never exercise. You're the one that's always holding me back. You're the one that's casting doubts in the firm resolutions. You're the one that sabotaged me last year when I tried to do something for myself. So now you bring that one up on charges. And if the charges are found to be true, then you put that one out. You're not welcome anymore in the assembly of the righteous. Get out of it, despise it, driven away. And if I ever catch you coming into the holy precincts of the divine self, I will put you to death. See, that's how you get yourself together. So the process of deliberative, lawful dialogue. See, let everybody speak. Don't try to suppress no opinion that's being expressed. Let everybody speak. Because when somebody speaks, you never know. You might hear a greater truth than you know right now. Let's move. Time is upon us. Everybody all right? Next slide, please. Dialogue is communication. That's all we've been saying. And if I've been doing my job right tonight, we're in communication, aren't we? All right? And that's good, isn't it? When the communication is good, then everything else is good. Let me say that again. When the communication is good, then everything else is good. Or if it's not, it's on its way to getting good. Because through proper communication, open, honest communication, everything can be handled. See, where's Brother Michael? We're going to do a little demonstration. See, he thought he got off the hook. Why don't you stand over there, brother? Watch your step there. See, what's communication? See, what's the issue? The issue is the distance between us. If we were in a perfect state of ultimate affinity, where we had completely merged into one single body and had become one single being, there wouldn't be a problem of communication. But we're so separate. Now, communication is not just talking. The communication cycle has to do with intention. See, what's my intention? To get the ball to him. In order for my intention to be served, what must I give to it? Attention. I have to put my mind on what I'm trying to do. And so I intend to throw him the ball, and I put my attention on it. And in a reciprocal way, he has to do the same. Why don't you look over there? See, he didn't intend on receiving the communication. He turned away. And when he turned away, his attention was on something else. So even though I'm attempting to communicate, the communication is not received. And communication that is not received is not communication. Duplication means that he responds back in a way that shows me sort of the complement or the reverse of my action. So if I throw it this way, he throws it that way. It's the same action. That's duplication. Here's another example that might be clearer. My phone number is 202-569-3704. 269-3904. Okay, he duplicated it. It means that I communicated a number to him. He had to give intention and attention to it. Otherwise, he wouldn't hear it. He wouldn't remember it. So when you communicate and the person cannot give it back to you, it means that they failed to do those two things. They weren't paying attention and they had no intention. See, one of the most common complaints that people have, they say, my memory is bad. Your memory's not bad. You're just missing the first two steps. You say, I read a book, and 5 minutes after I read the book, I can't tell you what I just read. Well, a book is a form of communication, isn't it? The author of the book is communicating with you in written language. But now, you as the reader, what must you bring to it? Intention. So you sit down and open up the book and you say to yourself, I intend to understand this and retain it and understand it. And I'm going to focus my attention on it and nothing else. I'm not going to listen to the radio and pretend I'm reading a book. Got the TV on, the phone ring, I'm on the phone, and I got a book. No. I'm sorry, I'll have to call you back. I'm reading a book. Turn the television off. Turn the radio off. Turn it down. Can't you see I'm reading? And I am wasting my time if I'm reading and I don't have the intention and I don't give the attention to what I'm reading or any other form of communication that there is. See, these seem like simple things, but in fact, These are the things that trip us up day in and day out and ruin our relationships. See, was that communication? No, I threw it over his head. There was no intention for him to get it. Did you ever have a teacher like that? Once sail a lesson over your head, knowing you ain't gonna get it, and then try to make you look like a fool running after the ball and laugh at you. See, that's a dishonest teacher. And there's people like that. They're always trying to confuse you with little tricky things to make, it's too deep for you. Like they're so smart and you so dumb. No, that's just a failure to communicate. And sometimes it's done unknowingly, but a lot of times it's done on purpose. They teach our children like that in the schools, purposely miscommunicating information to our children so they never learn. Then they come out of the classroom feeling like they're dumb, and they're not dumb, someone just miscommunicated with them. So true communication is intention, attention, duplication. If you want to make sure that you were successful in your communication, then you ask the person to repeat back to you what you said. And if they can't repeat back to you what you said, then you got to say it again. And you ought to tell them, now this time pay attention. Or maybe you should ask the question, are you really interested in what I'm saying? And if they're not really interested in what you have to say, then why are you wasting your breath? And then the duplication, when they give it back to you, and sometimes it comes back in their own words, it's not word for word, but they demonstrate an understanding of what you communicated with them. And that's the communication cycle. Now, why is that important? Because that's the basis of dialogue. And since so many of us, thank you, Brother Michael. Thank you. So many of us are the victims of miscommunication, or we are miscommunicators ourselves, and we don't understand what's wrong. And so if you just study this and practice it, and you will soon see that your ability to effectively communicate, which means giving communication and receiving communication, will improve. Next. Wait. Now that in the middle there it says communication spans distance and builds up affinity / relationships and builds up reality and identity. See, when you are miscommunicating with somebody, say you're using a whole bunch of big words that the person doesn't understand. Well, now, what happens to the distance between you and that person? It grows and grows and grows, and pretty soon they out of sight and you out of sight. What do you say? That brother was too far out for me. What happens to your emotional tie? It diminishes. As the communication goes down, the affinity, the relationship, the attractiveness, the love diminishes. This is what happens in your marriages. As the communication goes down, then the affinity goes down. And the reality diminishes until pretty soon you don't have no marriage. It once was real, but because of miscommunication, now it disappears along with the communication. Are you following me? Do you see how important this is? You could actually turn your whole life around just through proper communication. You could actually save your marriage.